Hi everyone, welcome back to another Diablo Immortal video. So I finally got my hands on the final Necromancer Essence that I needed as part of the new essences they brought in the game. This is a Dark Curse Essence for the leg piece called Unfurling Revival, where Dark Curse now reanimates corpses into spectral hounds that attack nearby enemies, and you get increased damage from this as well. This is something I was quite looking forward to playing with, and I know a few people asked for me to take a look at this one as well. So I was just not getting this essence from all of the legendary items that I was transferring to the essence NPC, so I had to rely on loyalty bonus to actually get this one, and it was the last essence that I got finally from all of the loyalty points that I redeemed. So I got it finally, and I'm going to have a first play around and first test with it, see what I think, play around with some fun builds, and yeah, see what we can find out about this new essence. It's going to be fun, so let's jump in and take a look. So we have the essence equipped, and as I said, it goes in the leg slot for your legendary gear, and you do get an increased 18% damage as well, and Dark Curse damage that goes up by 10%, so that's pretty cool. So let's take a look at the skills tab for a bit more information. So if we go down to Dark Curse. Okay, so with this equipped, Dark Curse is a damage skill, and Curse of the Resurgence shows up here. Dark Curse now reanimates corpses into spectral hounds for 3 seconds. Okay, so you need corpses to actually use this new essence. Spectral hounds attack the nearest enemy, and in this instance dealing 9,131 damage per attack. Obviously that damage number will go up depending on which gems you've got and awakened slots and other essences that pair. I've only got a legendary gem in this particular essence slot because I want to test it with no other legendary gems equipped, so we will see this damage go up later on. Dark Curse damage increased by 18%, and Dark Curse damage increased by 10% if you have an awakened slot. So there wasn't too much more additional information we got from the skills tab. It was quite basic. I was hoping to see a little bit more, but the spectral hounds only hang around for 3 seconds, so it's not very long. And let's see how they look and what kind of damage they deal when we go to the training dummy. So let's head over to the training dummy area. Okay, and as usual, I'm going to be testing this without the legendary gems equipped. So just before I started, I removed all of the legendary gems apart from the slot where this essence is in, just so we get the awakened bonus. But we've got no other legendary gems, so we're not going to get any additional variables affecting having a play around with this new essence, and just less things on screen that's going to get in the way, really. Okay, so we're at the training dummy. Let's have a first play around with this new essence. So if you were to use Dark Curse without any corpses, it does say no corpses nearby. So this is the range you get with Dark Curse, which is massive. You get a huge range, but you do need corpses. So I've got Grim Scythe, which generates corpses, and I've got Wraithform, which generates corpses. Let's use Grim Scythe to generate some corpses. There we go, and we're going to use the new Dark Curse essence and take a look to see what it looks like. There we go. Oh wow, cool. So there's a lot more hounds than I was expecting. It's a nice design actually. I'm glad they didn't just copy paste another design, and I'm glad they actually made up a new design for those hounds. They look quite cool. They've got like a dark black glow around them as well. Kind of reminds me of the smoke monster from Lost. And yeah, they don't hang around for very long at all. They go away very quickly. But yeah, the size of the hounds is not too bad either. They're not too small and they're not too large. I think they're just the right amount in terms of size. It would be nice if they did hang around for a bit longer. It's a shame that they go away so quickly. You know, being a necromancer, it's nice having those summons. Even with Echoing Shade, just having those clones around as a necromancer is quite cool as well. So it's just nice having summons as well as these pets with you. So that's quite cool. Another thing I have observed is I think you get more hounds depending on how many corpses there are available. So for example, let's let some of these corpses go away. So we've only got, say, 1 or 2 corpses. And let's quickly test to make sure that is the case. Okay, so let's do Wraithform. Get some corpses. Okay, let's just get that 1 corpse. There we go. So we've got the 1 hound with just the 1 corpse. Let's get 2. you get 2 hounds with the 2 corpses. So basically you get 1 hound for each corpse, and that's worth keeping in mind because you want to be able to generate as many corpses as you can before you actually click on Dark Curse, because if you just click on Dark Curse with just the 1 corpse, you've kind of wasted that essence with just the 1 hound. You want to actually generate as many corpses as you can on the floor. Now if we use Dark Curse, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hounds. So I think 6 might be the maximum amount of hounds that you can have, which is quite a nice amount. So that's worth taking into consideration. Make sure before you use this new essence, you are able to generate as many corpses as you can, because you're not going to get the same amount of hounds every time. If I just have 1 or 2 corpses, then I'm only going to get like 3 hounds in that occasion and 2 hounds for this occasion. And if I just have the 1, I'm just going to get 1 hound for that occasion. So do keep that in mind. But in terms of design, I'm quite happy with the design that they've actually come up with a new hound design. They do look quite cool. They've got that green glow just like the other spirits as well. So I'm happy with the design and how they look. It would be nice if they did hang around for a bit longer, and it's good that we can get a maximum of 6 hounds if we do get lots of corpses on the ground. So that's great. Let's have a look at the damage that they deal, and then we'll go to Wortham, have a quick Wortham test, and then we're going to have a look to see what other essences that we can pair with this Dark Curse essence, Unfurling Revival, and maybe take it into PvP. It seems like this is more of a PvP essence. I may not end up using this in PvE much, just because I don't use Dark Curse that much in PvE. I mean, there are some instances where you can take Dark Curse into, say, challenge rifts or something like that, where you can have enemies being distracted and explode, and you could probably get the hounds there. But the fact that they all attack the same target, it would be nice to have all of your hounds attacking the same enemy player. And it seems like quite an annoying thing that could happen, just having like 6 hounds attacking you. And we can see what else it can pair with it as well. So let's start with a quick damage test. Okay, let's get some corpses generated. And when Grimscythe goes away, let's cast Dark Curse now, and let's just take a look. They attack for about, what's that, 6 times? 940k. Let's try that another 3 times just so we get some consistency. Let's generate some corpses, and let's go again now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they attack about 6 times. We've got 1.1 million that time. And just going to try one more time. We're just going to gather some corpses. Generate some corpses, in fact. And refresh. Just try one more time now. 1, 2. I didn't get as many hounds that time, but we got 1.1 million, which was consistent to the previous time. Let me try one more time. There we go. 4, 5, 6. 645k, not as much, but we saw we got about 940k, 1.1 million. That was interesting. Okay, so that was a quick damage test without any of my other legendary gems affecting this. I was just curious what sort of the damage we get from this, and yeah, it obviously depends how many hounds you have. There we go, 1.1, 1.2 million, so around 940k to 1.1 million. Let's head over to Wortham and see this Dark Curse essence on some actual monsters. Okay, so we're in Wortham. Let's have a look to see what this essence looks like when we're actually using it on actual enemies out in the open world. So let's, we obviously need some corpses. Let's use Grimscythe to generate some corpses. And there we go. The hounds just go and attack the monsters. Obviously they don't hang around for very long, but you need the corpses to begin with, and you get the hound just biting away at those other enemies. And like I said, I wouldn't really end up using this in PvP that much, to be honest. I mean, look, that was quite cool. It's quite nice when the hounds are attacking the same enemy. So when the hounds are attacking the same enemy, I think it's definitely more effective. When you've got lots of enemies and then the hounds are kind of scattered, and some hounds are attacking some enemies and some hounds are on another, it doesn't seem to be as good. Because you might have only 1 or 2 hounds attacking, there we go. You've got 1 hound attacking 1 spider, and then you've got 2 hounds on another spider. And the cooldown just isn't as good. I accidentally clicked Corpse Lance there. So there we go, we've got a lot more hound attacking that spider there. Let's do it again. Oh, they were a bit slow there. What's that hound doing? So it seems like there's a bit of a range. So you can see this hound's just chilling out. He was doing nothing. You only had a few of the hounds. So the hounds need to be in a certain distance near the enemy. Otherwise they're just going to chill out like that. You saw there was 1 hound wasn't sure what he was doing. 1 hound was just chilling out. And then you had 3 hounds actually attacking the enemy. So yeah, this is kind of hard to use in PvP, and the cooldown isn't that great either. So personally, I'd stick to using this one in a PvP environment and not PvE. Let's do it now. That explosion wasn't too bad. So you saw that. Yeah, I think Dark Curse did an explosion there. So that's basically what this Dark Curse Essence and the hounds look like in an open world environment. You can see like they're not dealing amazing amount of damage, but I am on Inferno 5 as well, so I'm not expecting that much. But
my health is restored.
The hounds are definitely more effective when they're all attacking the same enemy at the same time. When you've got lots of enemies on screen, the hounds kind of scatter, and you have some hounds attacking some enemies, some hounds attacking other enemies. And yeah, that's basically how it looks and how it works. And obviously when you don't have any corpses, the essence is basically quite useless. So you need to make sure you have corpses around before you can actually use this essence and make good use of it. So let's take out this spider here before we go back to the training dummy for a few more tests. There we go. That's basically what the hounds look like in an open world environment. So yeah, I'd probably stick to using this in PvP. You know, it's quite cool seeing, you know, 4 or 5 hounds all attacking that same player. It could be really annoying if you're trying to fight and you get 4 hounds around you, all reducing your damage and, you know, all the other effects. They're causing that explosion as well. So yeah, it looked quite cool in a PvE environment. At least I got to see what they look like. And as you saw, you get some hounds that are just like chilling out, wandering away if they're too far away from the enemy. And it's best that these are used against a single target. Let's head back to the training dummy for some more tests. Now let's look at some potential essence combinations that you could use with this new Unfurling Revival leg essence. So if you were using Dark Curse in PvP at the moment, Necromancers would most likely be using a Corpse Lance build with Grim Scythe, dealing that decay damage and whirling bones around them, using Dark Curse to create corpses and a Miasma, so it's like a damage over time build. Now the thing is, that Dark Curse Essence that creates a area effect Miasma and damages enemies and creates corpses, that is on the legs. So that's this one here, Fulsome Feeding, where Dark Curse now creates a Miasma that follows you, damaging nearby enemies, continuously generating corpses. Now that pairs nicely with Corpse Lance, where you can grab those corpses, cause decay on enemies, and then you can use your whirling bones, or you can even use the Corpse Lances that targets random enemies, and that's a popular combination Necromancers usually use in PvP. Now the thing is, if you want to use this new essence, you're going to have to get rid of this Fulsome Feeding essence, which means you're not going to get enough corpses for your Corpse Lance, so you're going to have to really swap things around. Now the thing is, they've given us so many Dark Curse essences all for the legs. You're going to have to really pick which one you want to use, and it's going to completely change your build setup as well. And it's quite annoying that all of these are on the legs. Now let me show you what I mean. If we scroll down, we've got Mournful Destroyer, Dark Curse now curses the ground in an area, causing enemies within it to take continual damage. So this is on the legs, and it's quite good for some continual damage over time. Once again, this is a good one to use in PvP. And then we've got Soul Chime. Dark Curse now causes enemies to explode on death, but no longer decreases enemy vision. Another nice one to use in PvP and also PvE actually, because of the explosion. It's nice when you've got a group of enemies to use this against. And then we've got Limbs of the Lacrimal. Dark Curse now decreases enemy attack speed and movement speed instead of decreasing vision. Once again, another good PvP essence to take with Dark Curse, because when you do cast this, the enemy's attack speed and movement speed is going to go down. It's that CC that you can just keep casting just to annoy your opponents. And if we just keep on going down, look, there's just more and more. Guided by Maggots, Dark Curse no longer decreases enemy vision, instead causing your minions within the area to frenzy, increasing their attack speed and movement speeds. So this is nice in PvP and PvE. It's probably less likely you're going to have Dark Curse with your summons in PvE, but there is some builds where you can have fun with it. This might be quite nice if you take the untargetable summons into PvP, and then you can use Dark Curse to buff them even more. So you've got this to pick from, and keep going down. Empty Pit. Dark Curse now summons a cursed eye that forces nearby monsters to attack it. Another good one for PvE rather than PvP. Something like Challenge Rifts. You can throw that cursed eye in the middle of a group of enemies, have them get distracted, and then fire some explosion area effect damage on the group of enemies that are distracted. It just keeps you staying back and safe. So there's another one. And yeah, if we keep going down, we've got Dark Cryptic. Dark Curse now casts a dark rune in an area that explodes after a short delay, damaging enemies and removing all beneficial effects from them that were applied by skills or primary attacks. This is a really, really good one to use in PvP, and I've used this before in PvP where you can help your team out, especially if it's something like Shadow War or Vigor Blades and you want to be that Necromancer that supports your team with some debuffs. This is a really good one where you can kind of stay back a bit and then cast all those debuffs on the incoming players, like Crusaders and everything like that. It used to do quite well. I don't know how good it is now. I don't know if they've changed anything in this area, but I remember using this to debuff a lot of my enemy players when I was in certain war situations. So this was quite cool to use in PvP. And if we scroll down even further, we've got Fulsome Feeding, which is the last of the Dark Curse essences finally in the leg piece, which is the one we've already spoke about that we would usually use in PvP with Corpse Lance decaying and the whirling bones or even lances that target enemies. So you can see the dilemma here. The amount of Dark Curse essences that we have for the legs, and whichever one you pick, you're going to have to completely change your build up. But we're going to focus on this essence because this is what this video is about, the Unfurling Revival essence, the Curse of Resurgence. And we're going to pretend we've got this one, we're picking this essence. What else can we use and pair with this essence for some fun with our Necromancer? So let's start from the headpiece and work our way down, and let's see what we can do. So what I've done is I've really quickly mashed together a few essences which I think work together nicely with this new essence, and we'll take it into PvP, have a bit of a play around with it. So let's start with the helm. So for the helm I've got Studied Menace. This is a favourite for Necromancers in PvP. If you have Corpse Lance, and you usually go into a PvP environment with Corpse Lance if you're not doing a summon build. This is Corpse Lance now causes enemies to decay, dealing 4,253 damage for 3 seconds and reduces the healing they receive by 80%. Now just remember, I haven't got any gems equipped, so we're not going to see the awakened properties for these. It's just the initial text I'm reading. Now, the reason I've stuck with this is, as I said, if I'm going into PvP, I'm probably going to go with Corpse Lance mixed in with Dark Curse, and there are no other Dark Curse essences here to pick from to go in with that are worth using. So the rest of these are other essences and other Corpse Lance ones, but this Decay one's really, really good, Studied Menace, and I'd stick to using this essence. So that's why I've kept Studied Menace for the helm. Let's go to the chest piece. So for the chest piece, I've gone and picked Gallowsborn. This is where you generate corpses as you move during Wraithform. Wraithform cooldown is reduced by 3.6 seconds. So this is assuming that we're going into this build in PvP with Wraithform. And if I just go back over here, so the skills that I picked here are Soulfire, Dark Curse, Corpse Lance, Wraith Form, and Grim Scythe. Okay, so they're the skills that I've picked for this build that I've just mashed up. And the Wraith Form is obviously going to give us some survivability in PvP. It's going to mean that we can get out the way when we need to, stay back, get out of some tricky situations. And most importantly, the new Unfurling Revival Essence needs corpses. And also, Corpse Lance needs corpses. So we're going to have to make sure we have a good supply of corpses when we're using this build. I've picked Wraith Form and this Gallowsborn Essence to pair together nicely, so when we do use Wraith Form, we can use it to get out the way, and we can use it to generate some corpses when we need it at will. Now, the other thing worth mentioning here, there is a Dark Curse Essence that you could potentially take in here called Elude, but I noticed a bit of an issue with it, so let's go ahead and go to Elude here. And now this sounds really good. Enemies affected by your Dark Curse are weakened, increasing your critical hit chance against them by 19%. So initially, I picked this essence here, because I thought, you know, get the hounds up, do the Dark Curse, and then when those hounds are attacking, I'm increasing the critical hit chance against my enemies, and then I'll be able to do more damage afterwards. Now, let's look at the skills tab, and this is where I noticed something. So we have Curse of Resurgence, which is the new Necromancer Essence we're looking at. And we've got Dark Curse duration increased by 39%, great. And then we've got the one that we've just equipped. Enemies affected by your Dark Curse are weakened, increasing your critical hit chance against them by 19%. So great, they all show up here, it's not cancelled out, and it looks like that's working nicely. But if you scroll down just a little bit further, you get this line here, from chest. Affected skill not currently selected. Now, what the hell does that mean? That's really confusing and misleading. That's telling me that the skill Dark Curse is not currently selected. Well, yes it is. I have got Dark Curse equipped, and this essence is showing up in this list. Usually, you'd get an indication that it's being cancelled out, but instead I get this affected skill not currently selected message. And what this basically means is what I think it means. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I think the hounds do not increase the critical hit chance against enemies by 19%. So even though it looks like you can pair the two essences together, because of this affected skill not currently selected, it doesn't look like I can pair them together. And I can test this by looking at another Dark Curse Essence. So for example, let's get rid of Curse of Resurgence, and let's put any other Dark Curse Essence on. Let's go back to Fulsome Feeding. Let's pick Fulsome Feeding. So we've got another Dark Curse Essence here, and we've kept Elude. Now if you go back to your skills tab, go to Dark Curse. There we go. Enemies affected by your Dark Curse are weakened, increasing critical hit chance against them. And we have Gravedigger's Curse, which follows you dealing that damage, but you no longer get that message saying the skill's not equipped. So this means that, you know, both of those essences are working together. So it's kind of sneaky there and a bit misleading. I don't know if that's a bug, but it is kind of annoying. And for example, we'll go back to Curse of Resurgence, and then we look at the skills tab again, go to the bottom, and there you go. It says affected skill not currently selected. So do be careful about that. Don't equip Elude if you're using the new Unfurling Revival Essence, which means I will stick to Gallowsborn for the chest. Right, let's go on to, what are we on? The shoulders, Linger Mantle. So when you don't have this essence equipped, the hounds will only attack about 4 times and then go away. When you do have this essence equipped, the hounds attack about 6 times, so you just get the most out of the essence and then they'll disappear. So it made sense to use this for the shoulder. There are 2 other potential things that you could also use. You could use the new essence, which I've still got to look at, which is Osterlag, where Dark Curse marks its targets for 6 seconds, causing them to explode on death. The issue with this is there is another exploding Dark Curse Essence on your weapon slot, and if you were to pick that one, it doesn't work together with this one. They cancel each other out, so be careful of that. The other one is Voiceless Scream, and if I just see where that one is, this one here. enemies affected with Dark Curse now generate an additional corpse when defeated. So this is one which you could potentially use if you do want more corpses. It just kind of means it's a bit of a tricky one in a PvP scenario, because it means that you've got to stay in that area to make use of those corpses. Instead of, you might want to go out the way and move back, and then you won't be close enough for those corpses. And also using an essence here which isn't really doing any damage or anything, it's just generating more corpses. We might as well do that with some other skills. So that's why I've ignored using Voice to Scream, and I've stuck with increasing the duration. Oh, also, I thought I'd mention another reason I didn't go with Osterlag is because it says that it targets the enemies for 6 seconds, causing them to explode on death. And if I'm taking this into a PvP environment, I may not kill the enemy, like I might deal a lot of damage, but I might not deal enough damage to actually kill them, which means I might not get the 9,852 damage to nearby enemies. So because of that, I decided that's another reason why I skip Osterlag with this build and in PvP, and I just stick to Linger Mantle to increase that duration, just so the hounds can do as much damage as they can. So for the weapon slot, I've gone in with Revenant Wind, which pairs nicely with Gallowsborn, where you generate the corpses with Ray Form, but when I use Ray Form, I'll also now call forth spirits to haunt 3 nearby enemies for some damage over time and reducing damage. And yeah, it's just quite a nice one to use actually. You also get a 90% damage increase by Ray Form, so I thought this pairs quite nicely. Now there is a Dark Curse Essence which you can use on this weapon slot, but the only problem is it doesn't work with this new Unfurling Revival Essence. So if I go down here, Hesitation's End. So Dark Curse now curses enemies in a targeted area, causing them to explode and damage all nearby enemies after a short delay. So if I was to pick that one, which is a Dark Curse Essence, if I now go to my skills tab and go down to Dark Curse, I've got Curse Resurgence, I've got the duration, but I do not have anything more, so I don't get the explosion. So yeah, just be careful of that. Before I thought it did pair, and I had this equipped initially to begin with when I first started testing with this new essence. I thought I'd be able to pair it with this one, and when the hounds finish doing that damage, I get the extra damage from the explosion as we saw before, but that isn't the case. This doesn't pair with Curse of Resurgence, so don't have Delayed Destruction. That's why I've gone and swapped over to having Revenant Wind instead. So I've got some additional buffs for Ray Form. And there are no other Dark Curse Essences that you can pick here, which is a shame. It would have been nice to have one more Dark Curse Essence on the weapon slot that you can pick instead of Hesitation's End. It would have been nice to have just at least one more alternative that you can pair with the legs. So it's a shame that they haven't brought one out. Hopefully they'll do that. For weapon slot 2, I've gone with Defiling Swarm, Reaper's Calling, one of the favourites I use in PvE, but I'm taking it in PvP as well. Remember, we need corpses for this new Unfurling Revival Essence. We've got some corpses with Gallowsborn, but if we're going to be up there doing some damage, kind of close range, we might as well deal some more damage and get some corpses while we're at it. So let's get those Grim Scythe whirling scythes around us, and when we damage enemies, we're going to generate corpses. With the additional corpses, we're going to use both Corpse Lance and the new Curse of Resurgent Hounds to attack our enemies. So this is mainly so we get more corpses and we start dealing damage to enemies around us. Now, you could swap this out for a Wraith Form Essence. There's another Wraith Form Essence with the cooldown. If I go down here, this one here, Stroke of Midnight. You could have Stroke of Midnight, and then instead of Grim Scythe, you can have Borrowed Time instead. So you freed up a skill slot, and you can have some survivability with Borrowed Time. You could do that, but I've decided to keep Grim Scythe and deal some additional damage and additional corpses. And I usually take Borrowed Time into stuff like Vigor of Blades and Shadow Wars. Any of the war events I take in Borrowed Time, where it kind of makes sense to not die as much. In Battleground, it's okay, then you have that cooldown and you have to wait for Borrowed Time cooldown to come back, and you know, you die a lot more in Battleground and you don't care as much, I guess. So I decided to ditch Borrowed Time and just go with Grim Scythe instead, just to have the corpses. So that's pretty much what I've done, and as I said, there's no other Dark Curse Essence you can have apart from that Hesitation End, which doesn't work. So Revenant Wind and Defiling Swarm. Now for the shield, Departed Appetite, Vortex of Bone, a favourite to use that matches really well with Studied Menace, and when you do have those corpses, you're just going to get a whole load of bones spinning around you, dealing some fast damage to enemies, and you were going to use the corpses generated with Gallowsborn and also with Defiling Swarm. And this is just going to deal some additional damage to enemies around us. This build, obviously, you can't stay back too much. You're kind of going in there. When you do get in trouble, you've got Wraithform to get out as well, which is nice. But the other reason I picked this is there's no other Dark Curse Essences here, so it makes it really easy to pick from. Like the weapon slot kind of narrows down your choice. You haven't got much to pick from because there's not much Dark Curse Essences. It would have been nice if they did introduce a Dark Curse Essence into the shield slot, but they haven't yet. So you could also go with Lower Creed, which is down here somewhere, this one here. Corpse Lance no longer targets enemies and instead now summons more lances from each corpse that seek out random enemies. This kind of reminds me of that flute that's in the Guardians of the Galaxy films that the guy plays, and then you get the flute that just goes and targets enemies and just kills them one by one. It's quite cool. So it reminds me of that. You just use those corpses and fire those lances out to enemies around you. So either go in with Lower Creed, or you can go in with Departed Appetite, which I really like. So that's the option that I've gone in with because we are using Corpse Lance. And for the shield slot 2, because we haven't got any other Dark Curse Essence to pick from, I'm using Soulfire. I'm going in with Spite Fetor just to give me that 25% chance to explode on hit and deal additional burn damage. This is going to work nicely with my Agament set and Roiling Consequence, and I'll deal additional critical hit when I do have burning enemies. So that's why I've gone in with this one. Now if you wanted, you could go with Drifter's Fair if you want. Drifter's Fair, Bone Spirits now unleashes a powerful skull that wanders randomly through your enemies. So if you wanted to go in with Bone Spirits instead, you could do Bone Spirit build and you can have an additional spirit just like wandering around doing damage. I usually use this in my PvP build. I quite like this one. Or you could go in with Scattered Light. So you have some mages around you that are untargetable. They're not going to be killed. They're always going to be dealing some damage next to you. So that's quite cool. After being struck by a loss of total control effect, a spectral mage can sacrifice itself to remove the effect. So you could go in with this one, but it means you're going to have no Grim Scythe, which means you're just going to have less corpses. So either go in with Scattered Light, you can go in with the Bone Spirit one, Drifter's Fair, or you can do what I did and stick to Spite Fetor and deal that additional primary attack damage burn on your enemies. So that is pretty much it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my gems back on so we can have a look at all the awakened properties and just sort of try this out, and then we'll go into Battleground and yeah, see what this build is like. And that's pretty much what I like to do. I mean, I know people like to stick to one type of build, you know, something which a lot of people are using, or like an OP build, or you know, that one PvP build which is reliable. But don't be afraid to have fun with this game, and the essences, there's so many combinations, so many permutations. We get so many essences which we can mix and match, and that's what I've pretty much done. I've just spent a little while to just knock this build together that works around the new Unfurling Revival essence. If I did want to try this one out with the hounds for a while, at least I've got a few other essences that work nicely with it. And you know, it doesn't have to be the best build, doesn't have to be the most perfect build, but it's something which just works well together and you can have fun with in Battleground and just see how it works and tweak it from there. So don't be afraid to have fun with your Necromancer builds. Okay, so gems are equipped again. So I have Roiling Consequence, which is going to do lots of nice burn damage and increase critical hit chance. And when I do have burning enemies, my critical hit chance is going to increase. And I've got Soulfire doing some burn damage, and I've got Agament doing burn damage as well, which is quite nice. I've got Blood-Soaked Jade. I've got Phoenix Ashes for some additional survivability. I've got Chip of Stone Flesh, but that's orked with Storm Vault because I'm not doing any complete loss of control and fear with this build. I've got Starfire Shard, Gloom Cask, Viper's Bite, and Morn Skull. For the set items, I've got 2 pieces of Feasting Barons, I've got 2 pieces of Banquet of Eyes, and I've got 4 pieces of Agament just to get that additional damage over time and burn. Now, For Paragon, just keeping it simple with a Gladiator Paragon, just for some survivability. Now let's double check the essences. So we have Studied Menace, as we've seen. Now we're going to have a look at the Awakened property. So I get additional Corpse Lance damage here. So for Gallowsborn, I get even more cooldown reduction with Wraithform. For the shoulders, I get more cooldown for Dark Curse. And for the Curse of Resurgence, we've already had a look. I get increased 10% damage. For Revenant Wind, I get even more cooldown for Wraithform. For Defiling Swarm, I get some more damage with Grim Scythe. With Vortex of Bones, I get some additional Corpse Lance damage. And for Spiked Fetor, I get some even more primary attack damage with Soulfire damage going up by 10%. So that's all of the Awakened properties kicking in. Let's double check the skills now, just to make sure there's nothing that we've missed that's cancelled out. Soulfire's got that burn damage. Corpse Lance has the Vortex of Bones and causing enemies to decay. Dark Curse, we've got Curse of Resurgence, and we have the duration that's been increased by 39%, and the cooldown has been reduced by 10%. Grim Scythe has got Reaper's Calling, which generates us some corpses and also deals damage. And Wraithform generates corpses as we move around, and also we get the damage over time by haunting enemies, which is quite cool. And I've got some increased damage from my charm as well. Okay, so we know all of the skills work nicely together, all the essences are in place, we've got the gems there. Let's have a quick play. So what we're going to do is, obviously we're going to be generating some corpses, and then we're going to kick off Dark Curse to get the hounds up, and then I'm also going to get Corpse Lance to do the spinning bones around me. And I'm going to have to prioritize Dark Curse just to make sure I keep those hounds attacking that enemy before I click Corpse Lance, because I don't want to use all of the corpses just for Corpse Lance. I want to make sure I prioritize using Dark Curse, because that's what we're trying to play around with the most here. So it's going to be quite tricky making sure we've got as many corpses as we can, but we're going to try our best. And you can see everything coming into play here quite nicely. And I'm just going to keep this going for around a minute, just so we can see how the build works nicely together. There we go. So that's pretty much how this build's going to play out. And let's just see how we get on. So it's going to be quite fun. I'm going to take it into Battleground and have a quick look once that's open. Okay, so I've been matched up in a Battleground match. Let's see how we get on with this new Necromancer Essence and unleash the hounds on players. Okay, we're in. We have all of our legendary gems equipped. The secondary gems are set items.
Let's
double check the essences. Studied Menace, Gallowsborn, Linger Mantle, Unfurling Revival, Revenant Wind, Departed Appetite, Spiked Fetor, and Defiling Swarm. Obviously, as I mentioned, this can be swapped out with, say, Borrowed Time or anything else. And you could probably have, I don't know, a Wraithform Essence instead of the Grim Scythe one, and then have Borrowed Time in the slot instead of Grim Scythe. That's mainly for if you're kind of close up, if you're able to attack the enemies and generate some corpses, additional corpses. But we'll see how we get on. It's just the first, this is my very first test with this essence, so I'm not sure how it's going to go down. It was just something which I quickly put together just to experiment with. Now this area here is a bit deadly. I'm just going to stay a little bit back, get some corpses. I've got my hounds. I've tried to fire the hounds out to somebody. There we go, the hounds are attacking a player. That must be quite annoying, but I'm going to get killed with all of this continuous damage. Let's get out of the way. Let's keep going. Phoenix Ashes kicked in. I just about survived that one. Wow. I had Cheat Death and Phoenix Ashes, but I was mainly watching to see what it looked like when I did summon the hounds and cast it on some players. It was quite fun just seeing the hound chase after people. So I've got 4 hounds here. And yeah, the corpses are going to be an issue here. I'm really glad I've got Wraith Form generating those corpses.
That requires a corpse.
Yeah, that's not a good place to stay. Got stuck at that entrance area. Obviously, Dark Curse isn't going to deal immense damage that I'm going to destroy players or anything. This build is probably much better in a lower resonance match as well in Battleground. It might be a bit more fun. Everyone's a bit too super serious in this matchmaking that I'm currently in. Okay, I was hoping somebody was going to come here and use these corpses, but nobody is heading in yet. I've got my hounds. What if I get the hounds up and move forward? No, the hounds didn't follow. See, that's annoying. The hound just stood there. I had the hounds summoned. They kind of just stayed back there. They didn't push forward, but maybe it's because of where I was standing. I'm not sure. Oh, probably a bad place to stand. Chase after this guy. Got the hound chasing this person here. But I'm probably not going to be able to take this player out. Let's be safe and retreat a bit. But we did do a bit of damage on that player with the hound. You saw that it was quite annoying. Had about 4 hounds on that person. And here again, the hounds are sort of biting. I need that Wraith Form cooldown just to get these the hounds.
Without a corpse, I cannot.
God, this is tough. Definitely not getting as many corpses as you would with the the Dark Curse Essence, which generates the corpses and damages enemies. That generates far more corpses than the Wraith Form. Okay, I had some more hounds over there. It was really hard to see. There we go. I kind of saw the hounds jumping in. Trying to use Wraith Form as much as I can to get the hound up. It's hard to get kills, to be honest. Everybody else doing some damage. Quite tricky to get that final hit. We're doing okay to keep the enemy at bay though. Hopefully my hounds have been annoying in some situations. Okay, here we go. The hounds are chasing. I'm not going to survive that knife. Okay, we need another situation to use the hounds.
That ability must recharge.
Yeah, I'm just getting destroyed here. And I'm still not sure I'd use the hound that much in PvE. Just because of how quickly they go away as well, and they're better when they attack a single target rather than multiple enemies. That's why I thought it'd be good in this environment where I can get all of the hounds attacking one player.
Not yet.
Yes, got a kill in. I don't know. Let's just say and pretend that was a hound that killed that enemy there. Okay, I've got no more corpses I can use. But the main purpose was just to see what the hounds look like in a PvE environment. Just seeing them chase after enemy players. And just finding a build that works with the hounds. So what else can you pair if you do want to use the hounds just for some fun? There we go, got 1, 2, I got 4 hounds up there. Hopefully they did something. It's a shame the explosive essences for Dark Curse don't pair with the hounds, or that critical hit chance one as well. It's annoying that that doesn't work with the hounds, because when the hounds are attacking enemies, it would have been nice to increase the critical hit chance on enemies. Okay, I'll try to get the hounds up one more time before the battle ends. There we go. The hounds are attacking somebody right at the end of the match.
Death closes upon me. I need a corpse for that.
And that's it. Well, there we go. I'm going to pretend that that one kill I got was from the hound. we won the match, but it was mainly just for fun, just to see if we can put a build together that works alongside the new essence and just see what it's like. So yeah, focusing on the Unfurling Revival Curse Resurgence Essence. And yeah, just a takeaway from that was it's definitely tricky to get enough corpses to share between Corpse Lance, Vortex of Bones, and Curse of Resurgence. So maybe things might need to be switched up a little bit to maybe go with some Spectral Mages instead of Corpse Lance for this. So maybe you can go with Mages here and then swap out a Corpse Lance over here with another Essence. And it was quite hard to get close enough to use Grimscythe on the enemies to do enough damage and get corpses. So potentially, yeah, this could be swapped out with Borrowed Time instead, and having maybe a cooldown essence for Wraith Form instead. So for example, we could have Stroke of Midnight like we spoke before. So potentially Stroke of Midnight instead, that could have worked. And then swapping out Grimscythe with Borrowed Time. So that's pretty much it really. That's what I wanted to go through for that new essence, which is for Necromancer, Dark Curse, Leg Essence called Unfurling Revival. Hope you enjoyed watching that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.